still come in, so I'm going to go ahead and start right now. So today I'm here to present Hacienda Zuleta. Hacienda Zuleta is a new partner of Insight Latin America as of this month. It's a huge honor for me to be working with Hacienda Zuleta. I've had a lot of respect for them in my time living in South America and guiding, and also working while I was at Geographic Expeditions. I sent a lot of clients there and just listened to endless great feedback. I had the chance to personally go there myself a few times. Super impressed with the location, with all the people that run it, so I'm really proud to be working with them now. Just a quick introduction for those that don't know who I am or what I do. My name is Clark Atula. I run Insight Latin America, and I work as the North American representative for these properties below. The properties I represent, they're handpicked. They're kind of people I go to. I say, look, I really love your property. It fits in with kind of my belief in what I think is important in travel. And we talk and work together and see if they're interested in having a representative in the States. It's not just open to anybody. It's really invitation only. The properties are all high-end luxury properties, but my definition of luxury isn't, marble bathrooms and white gloves and top hills and hats. It's more the luxury of the experience and of the location. They need to be a high-end property, but it really needs to provide an insight into the destination people are visiting. And Hacienda Zuleta fits that perfectly. So I was up probably till like 2 o'clock last night putting together this presentation, because Zuleta is just, there's so many facets of things that make it unique and different and fascinating for travelers. And I just wanted to start with a slide because I had to really concentrate my mind to compartmentalize Zuleta and a few things to keep this presentation short. I'm going to try to do it in about 30 minutes, but I really boiled it down to the living history of Zuleta. It's a working farm. The excursions there are unique excursions that you don't find anywhere else in the other highland haciendas around. Their commitment to sustainable tourism through their nonprofit foundation, and just the quality is something that's woven through everything that's done at Zuleta. For a bit of orientation, just so you see where Hacienda Zuleta is, we're looking at a map kind of north central Ecuador. Down here in the bottom left is Quito. Somewhere else on here, Otavalo. Everyone knows the famous Otavalo indigenous marketplace, which is where most tourists, when they call you, they say, I want to go up and see Otavalo. So Hacienda Zuleta is right up near Otavalo, about 30-minute drive from the market town of Otavalo. Currently, with the airport in Quito, it's 2 hours from the airport in Quito to get out to Zuleta. Some of you are aware that they're building a new airport in Quito. This is going to be operational about October of this year. And the new airport is going to be quite a ways outside of Quito. This airport, I've been speaking with people at Zuleta and other people in Ecuador, and they're saying pretty much that from the new airport into the downtown Quito is going to be about an hour at times without traffic. And at times during heavy traffic, it's going to be about an hour and a half from the new airport into Quito. So it's really going to open up great opportunities for yourselves as travel planners to sell highland haciendas and Hacienda Zuleta, not as an extension going from Quito, but literally landing and going straight out to the haciendas. I mean, at the moment from the new airport, it's going to be about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes out to Hacienda Zuleta. They're paving the final bit of this road through Almeida, so that's going to make it even closer. So it's pretty much going to be equidistant, either going out to Hacienda Zuleta or going into Quito to spend a few nights if you have clients that are transiting in on their way to the Galapagos. So Hacienda Zuleta, it's important, I just want to kind of set the scene here that Hacienda Zuleta is a building, it's a lodging option, but it's a huge piece of land and it's a historic piece of land. Hacienda Zuleta itself covers more than 8 square miles in the countryside here. This picture right at the top, this is the main house and where the rooms are, the main hacienda building. But all this land that we see essentially is Hacienda Zuleta. Hacienda Zuleta is also, it's a community. This piece of land that's been branded Zuleta. We're going to talk a bit about the history of it, but the people that live around here, they're Zuleteño people. So it's almost like an entire region, and the hacienda is the kind of the focal point of the history of this hacienda itself. So I want to start out just talking a bit about the history of Hacienda Zuleta, which to me is one of the most fascinating things. I love history, and everywhere you turn, everything you touch, see, smell, hear when you're on this hacienda is just infused with history. Original inhabitants of this area, which makes up Hacienda Zuleta, were the Caranquis. These were pre-Incan civilization, and all across the land here you find these earthen mounds that were built up by the Caranquis. The Caranquis were there, and you can see that kind of from 1470s when the decline of them, and that's really because the Incas started moving in and assimilating people into the Incan Empire. On the land of Hacienda Zuleta itself, there's over 130 of these earthen mounds everywhere, so pretty fascinating to see this pre-Incan archaeological sites everywhere you go. So after the Spanish after the conquest of the Incan Empire by the Spanish, when they came in, this was given over to the Jesuits, and really it was the Jesuits in the 17th century that really gave the roots of Zuleta as a working farm and as a production farm. They brought in European agricultural techniques and started working on it. The main building where your guests will stay and where the activities are based from, it dates back to 1691. This picture on the left is actually one of the original cornerstones at the hacienda, and it is in Latin, and basically says, "Behold, sacred sacrament, that this house is finished on the 15th of August, 1691. So that was the roots of it. It was Jesuit, and then it wasn't until private ownership began in 1713. And between 1713 to 1898, it passed over quite a few hands, but beginning on February 19th, 1898, it was bought by the Plaza Lasso family, which have now been running it for over 100 years. They're still the family, the Plaza Lasso family, still manage and run the hacienda. So it's been in the hands of that one family for over 100 years, and just an incredible amount of history as you walk into this hacienda. Most notably is some of the figures from the Plaza Lasso family. We're looking at a picture in the Presidential Library of Zuleta up at two big oil paintings. The large one on the left is Leonidas Plaza. He was an Ecuadorian general and was twice president of Ecuador in the early 1900s. And then the main figure that everyone's familiar with is the oil painting here on the right, and that is Galo Plaza Lasso. And he was actually born in the United States. He studied here in the Bay Area at University of California, Berkeley, went back to Ecuador. He became the ambassador of Ecuador to the United States, and then he was president from 1948 to 1952 of Ecuador, president of Ecuador, 48 to 52. So that was a really interesting time right after World War II. Obviously, with his roots having studied in the United States, he was very close to a lot of the figureheads and heads of state here in the United States. And so particularly for North American travelers, it's fascinating as you walk around this hacienda. It's a real tangible history you can see. I'm just showing you some examples of pictures that are up on the wall. This one at the right is a picture in 1951 with Galo Plaza standing with Harry Truman. That's in Washington, D.C. This picture below is of Galo Plaza actually with Eleanor Roosevelt, and that was at, you can see by the symbol in the background, that was at the United Nations. So this is probably a widowed Eleanor Roosevelt with him, because after Galo Plaza's presidency, he actually came back as the Secretary General of the Organization of American States from 68 to 75. So a real close connection between the United States and Ecuador through the presidency of Galo Plaza. And so when you have travelers there, they walk around and look at these pictures, and it just brings back to an era, a lot that people can really connect with because it was recent history. And what I call it living history is even more than that. As you have this background, you can see these pictures, but as I said, the family still owns and runs it. The Hacienda Zuleta is owned by the 5 daughters and only son of President Galo Plaza, but the general manager who runs the agricultural side and the tourism is Fernando Palonca Plaza, who we're looking at a picture of here. Great guy. Some of you have met him, full of life, real character, extremely smart, real Renaissance man, and everyone in this family is just very proud of the history of their family, and they want to share it with visitors. They want visitors to feel that they're a house guest of their family. Fernando Palonca Plaza, he lives there on site. Not every evening, but most evenings he'll go into the lounge areas, meet with guests, walk them. This is just a picture of him walking guests through, pointing out some of the pictures, explaining the history behind them. So it's a real cool, tangible history that you can connect with the grandson of this, very important Ecuadorian president and hear their stories. And it's every time I've been there, I listen to this. It's different because people have different questions they ask, and you hear these different, stories of Fernando's childhood and him, his perceptions of his grandfather and these important visitors that came to the hacienda. So it's a true living history that visitors can touch when they're here. A working farm, there's a lot of haciendas in Ecuador where tourists are coming and staying at. Some are in production, some are not. Hacienda Zuleta is absolutely enormous and bustling. I mean, the reality, Fernando was telling me that kind of looking at the makeup of the hacienda in total, as a business, that really the tourism aspect only is less than 10% of really what Hacienda Zuleta does. The other portion is agricultural. Over 8 square miles, mixed-use land, meaning that's not all agricultural. There's agricultural bits, but there's also community areas where the local Zuleteño people live. They have areas they've set aside for conservation to protect the paramo and certain very unique ecosystems of the Ecuadorian highlands. But when you're at Zuleta as a visitor, you're constantly surrounded by this activity. I mean, it's mainly a dairy farm, so there's the Holstein dairy cows that are there, tons of sheep for meat and for wool. Horses is a big part of the tradition of Hacienda Zuleta, so there's over 100 horses. Trout farm, they grow potato, quinoa, barley. This is all stuff for sale off of the side of the hacienda. There's also huge tracts of pine and cypress forest that they sell for timber. So there's a lot going on the hacienda in terms of it being a true working hacienda. So you're kind of enmeshed in this scene. It's nothing put on for a tourist. I mean, you're simply there at a working farm. They're most well known for, since it's a dairy farm, they have their own cheese factory on site at Hacienda Zuleta. Super interesting. I'll talk a bit more about this as an excursion later. But with all the milk that's produced there, they produce their own cheese. There's about 8, 10 more and more varieties of cheese every day. Very high quality artisanal cheeses that are produced on site at Hacienda Zuleta. You can see a little picture on the left, bottom left of like the family of cheese brands. And you go into the more high-end supermarkets in Ecuador, and you're going to find this Hacienda Zuleta cheese everywhere. And then some of the harder varieties, kind of the richer ones, like this one at the bottom in the black wrapping, the Dongado. Fernando was saying, oh yeah, I export this. There's actually some in New York, and there's some in California, and I actually didn't believe him. But I was just up in Healdsburg last weekend here in the Napa Valley, and went into a creamery in Healdsburg, and sure enough, there was cheese from Hacienda Zuleta. So really interesting. Excellent cheeses, and of course, they're served to guests all the time. There's always a cheese tray out for people to try it. So let's go ahead and go into the Hacienda building itself, the Hacienda house, and have a look at kind of the guest rooms and the dining experience and what it is when you're sending clients to Hacienda Zuleta that they're experiencing. This is the main courtyard where people will drive into. For common areas, there's kind of 2 main living areas inside the Hacienda. This is the main living room, where some of the standard rooms and the deluxe rooms are off of hallways from this main living room. And again, this is a picture of Fernando sitting with some guests in the evening, probably looking through some photo albums and talking about history, or maybe looking at their itinerary and giving them advice. So it really is your guest of this family when you come and stay at Hacienda Zuleta, and beautiful little antiques and artifacts everywhere. This is the presidential library. There's actually a big sitting area directly below this balcony that this picture was taken from. There's a big sitting area and fireplace. This is another area. People will come browse through here. This is where a lot of amazing pictures are taken, a lot of the black and white pictures that are up on the wall, a lot of the historical things for the family are here. This is my favorite room in the Hacienda. It just breathes history, and there's so many little cool knickknacks to look at. Going into the rooms, it's a small Hacienda. There's just 15 rooms. This is the nicest room category at the moment. We have 3 junior suites. These are directly off, actually, if we go back to this picture of the presidential library, this door that leads out on a hallway. Out this hallway are the 3 junior suite rooms. So I don't need to read all the details of this, but obviously the junior suite rooms are just the largest rooms. They have a separate sitting area. There is Wi-Fi that reaches this area of the building that's open. They're all ensuite bathrooms in these rooms, but this kind of gives you a feeling of one of the junior suites. All the rooms are different, obviously, because of the historic nature of the building. My favorite thing is the wood-burning stoves. Every night they're lit, kind of when people are at dinner, they'll go in and light these wood-burning stoves, and you come back and it's super toasty, and falling asleep to the crackling sound of the fire is just great. This is a deluxe room, just a bit smaller, doesn't have a separate sitting area to it as the junior suites do. The junior suites in these deluxe rooms, we can fit an extra bed in here to make up a triple for like a family, and there are options for connecting rooms as well if we have families that want to have connecting rooms together. There's 3 standard rooms. These are booked out quite often, but just so you know, it's at a more introductory price point for people if they really want to come to Zuleta, but the prices are a bit high for them. Check and see if one of the standard rooms are available for them. These are the only rooms that we can't fit an extra bed in. They're simply queen beds in these 3 standard rooms. And just thought I'd throw this in. I know everyone kind of wants to see what the bathroom looks like, so here's one picture of a bathroom just for reference. Service at the Hacienda, pretty incredible level of service at the Hacienda, and there's about 5 girls that work mainly in doing, serving guests for food and the housekeeping and answering questions, helping them, point them in the way of excursions, etc. Like Sandra, Margarita, Monica, Christina. And when I was there, I was touched by just how skilled they were. Being Zuleteño, they grew up in the countryside here, but just such a high level of intuitive kind of service standards to them of dealing with people. Great personal skills, very regal in a way. And Fernando was saying that actually 2 or 3 of the girls, they're of multiple generations that have worked at the Hacienda, that their families even go back to when the family bought the Hacienda in February of 1898, that these girls are still from families that were working in the service role at the Hacienda back over 120 years ago. So it's almost akin to like this sense as being a presidential home, almost like a White House staff that's revolving over the same generations of people there, and the kind of skills and experience that's been built up over generations is passed on to offspring. So these young girls here have an incredible amount of experience and service that were brought down to them through previous generations that have worked at the Hacienda. It was probably their mothers or grandmothers that were also there entertaining, visiting dignitaries from the United States and from around the world during the presidency of Galo Plaza. In terms of dining, obviously they try in the evening to get people together into the group dining room if possible, just to kind of share some stories, talk about the recipes and everything. So there is one large main dining area for people. It seats up to 24 people. So if we do have large groups, or if guests want to get together with others, we'll arrange that we'll set a large table in the formal dining room. But if not, we do have other areas. Right off at the Presidential Library, there's some 2- and 6-person tables. There's also interior courtyards and patios. So it just basically comes down to requests. They'll ask people, where would you like to dine this evening? Where would you like to have a lunch? And they'll set it either a private table for 2, or if they want to do dinner with other people that they've met while at the Hacienda, they can do that in the main dining room. Obviously, having 8 square miles of agricultural land surrounding you really leads well to the new farm-to-plate movement, but it's kind of always been farm-to-plate there, just since it is a farm. Super, super fresh food there. The picture at the top right, that's actually of the huerta, or the organic gardens that are a 2-minute walk from the guest rooms out the back of the Hacienda building. There they grow over 25 different varieties of vegetables, tons of herbs, lots of fruits. So basically everything that's served to guests when they're at the property is grown organically on site. Even the trout, there's 3 different kind of trout farms, trout ponds. So fresh trout is basically caught a couple hours before it's served. Any meats are obviously coming from the property itself as well. So super, super fresh food. When I was just down in May speaking with Fernando, he's going to try to start organizing some culinary experiences if people want to come and spend 2 days, and we'll do kind of a hybrid like gardening experience, picking the vegetables, and then with the chef preparing some Ecuadorian cuisine. So the thing about it interesting as well is that obviously the family and the staff have some really unique recipes with fresh local ingredients, the way that they prepare it. So the culinary aspect here is very real from local ingredients, and it's prepared from local family recipes that have been there for generation upon generation and improved upon. So this is just a detail of some of the food service at Zuleta. Talking about excursions, I kind of had to pare this down because there's so much to do in Zuleta, and obviously most people know that one of the big ones is that your clients will say, "Oh, I want to go and see the Otavalo market." I'm not even going to talk about that because it is what it is and it sells itself. What I want to do is talk about excursions on Zuleta itself. I mean, most people that come here, they arrive and they go, there's not really any need for me to even leave the Hacienda land because there's so much to experience while they're there. Obviously, they want to go to the marketplace of Otavalo on the weekend. They can do that. It'd be a half-day trip from Zuleta. But we're looking at a map basically of different excursions and points of interest on the Hacienda's land. This is the main house that we've just been looking at, and all these are different points of interest. This different shaded area, this is actually all the communities, the Zuleteño communities. So that's area if you want to go into, local markets, local workshops. Visiting this area of Hacienda Zuleta is going to be visiting with communities. And then these main things, there's obviously waterfalls, there's a mill here, milking barns. And on the key here, you can see everything's signposted, everything's colored routes. So it's basically been set up where they don't, people don't need to be guided if they don't want to be. Just to give you an example, so here's like, say you wake up in the morning, because of the dairy activity, there's milking barns. There's quite a few milking barns around the hacienda. So early in the morning, the local people are going to milk the cows, and then again late in the evening. This is open to guests that want to go and visit the milking barns. They're told, okay, in the morning, there's 3 milking barns here. They are on the map. They can do that either guided or unguided. You can see here on the right, like along with the map that's provided to them and some kind of just lay of the land by the staff. When they go on these walking trails, you go there and it's been really well done, beautifully signposted of different colored trails showing where the different points are. So I mean, it's basically impossible to get lost, and people can head out and decide, oh, I want to go see this, I want to go see that, and just head off and do an exploration on their own. If they want guides, we do have guides on site at the hacienda, and I'll send all this afterwards as far as pricing and the way it works with guided excursions, what's included in a basic stay and what's additional guided services. We do also have people that come with a through guide from Quito. Fernando runs a guide course each year, and the local DMCs, it's free for them to participate. Basically, they'll send their guides, spend a few days at Zuleta, where Fernando trains them about the different things going on, and then they become certified guides of Zuleta. They're welcome to stay. When they come with guests, they're allowed to stay, and they eat for free while they're at the hacienda. If guides don't go through that course, then they're not allowed to stay and guide on the hacienda. It'll be the local guides of Hacienda Zuleta. Another excursion people can do, we talked a lot about the cheese there. The cheese factory is right behind the main hacienda building. So during the stay, most everyone goes in to see the cheese factory because they're eating this cheese every day, and it's really cool. I mean, it's for how much cheese they produce. It's a very small cheese production facility. You get to dress with hairnets and look kind of funny in your lab coat and go through this, but it's really fascinating process. I really didn't know anything about cheese, and Fernando told me more than I ever wanted to know when I was there with him last May. As far as getting out and exploring the landscape of Zuleta, we have mountain bikes there. I would say the hiking is incredible. People just want to head out on foot. The staff will be happy to prepare just a picnic basket for them, throw in their backpack to head out and explore the hacienda on self-guided or guided excursions. We also have a buggy. People that aren't into horseback riding, I mean, horses are a huge part of the hacienda, but if they want to head out by buggy, that's a great way to actually go down the cobblestone streets and through the community and going and seeing the different aspects of the farm. Horseback riding is huge. I mean, we have over 100 different horses at Hacienda Zuleta. We've got Andalusian horses, we've got polo horses, and then they have a special horse there that's basically called a Zuleteño, which is a mix of Andalusian, quarter horse, and thoroughbreds. Really, really wonderful riding horses, very tame, and I mean, we cater to people that are coming like this as a family, just want to do a simple ride for an hour or so to get out, that's fine. People that want to do full day rides, we can cater to super advanced riders, and we also work a lot with different equestrian companies that will come and spend a week at the hacienda and do different rides each day. So horseback riding is definitely a huge draw of the hacienda. Very good safety record there, safety standards as far as making sure people have to wear helmets or hats when they're out on rides. Horseback riding is great. And then the last kind of excursion I want to talk about, it also tie into what is the Fundación Galo Plaza Lazo. This is the nonprofit organization which is part of Hacienda Zuleta. They focus on conservation, education, and community development projects, and tying this in with tourism. This was set up actually kind of by Galo Plaza himself before even thinking about it. But the foundation nowadays and these activities at the hacienda, which are unique to Hacienda Zuleta, are really honoring the vision and legacy of Galo Plaza, what he wanted to do when he was president. So Galo Plaza, really when he was president, his big thing, his hope was to help the community to achieve economic stability. And he had started the first project that is still being run by the foundation nowadays, and that's the Bordados de Zuleta. The local people that live in this area, the Zuleteños, they're noted. Their local dress is noted for this really intricate, beautiful, colorful embroidery. And Galo Plaza had seen that a lot of the people were struggling and were going working in other realms to try to feed their families, and they were losing a lot of this cultural skill. And the women were losing their skill in embroidery, which is such a part of the identity and culture of the Zuleteño people. So he set up a woman's embroidery workshop that's on the land of Zuleta. It's very close to the hacienda, so guests can still go and visit it today. And it's basically a center where people can, where the ladies can go during the day and share their knowledge. They work on their embroidery together, and then the foundation has helped them basically market and present their stuff in a way to visitors coming by, either staying at the hacienda or people passing through, that they can sell these intricate embroidery for what they're really worth when it takes a couple weeks for these ladies to do it. So that's a beautiful project that's really helped uphold the pride and the integrity and just the cultural identity of the Zuluteno people through the embroidery. And so that's available to visit. If people want to do something more intense, they can also do like embroidery workshops with actual women during their stay. In terms of conservation, this little valley down here at the right, actually little valley, it's an absolutely huge valley. This is probably a 30-minute walk from the hacienda itself. And as you see going out this road, we're looking at one of the Caranqui mounds. As we get up there, and when we get to the top of this valley, there's some huge enclosures. And what it is, the Condorcet project, basically in Ecuador, what would be their equivalent of like our Fish and Game Department here in the United States. Whenever they find captured condors that people have as pets, or condors that have been shot and that are injured, they're brought to Hacienda Zuleta. It is the official place where condors are brought, where injured condors are brought. And up in this valley, huge cages basically where they are kept, big enclosures where they can still run around and bring their wings out so they can repeat. The whole purpose of this project is to rehabilitate the condors and release them back into the wild. And they're released exactly to this spot. So apart from getting out here to kind of learn about the condor project, and you see these condors up super close since they're in these enclosures, well, not super close, you need to keep a distance, but these ridges around here receive excellent thermals. And I had thought I'd seen a lot of condors before, like in Peru and Cruz del Condor in the Copa Canyon, but I mean, days at Zuleta, every time I went out the door, you'd look, oh, there's more condor, there's more condor, there's more condor. I mean, condors all day long, soaring up and down these ridges, beautiful, beautiful condors. They fly over these enclosures, so it's a really magical project that, you wonder if these condors know that, Zuleta is a friend of theirs and is helping, helping their injured feathered brethren to come back. Also in this area, a lot of Andean spectacled bear. Again, I laughed and Fernando was going on about, we have tons and tons of Andean spectacled bear around here, but sure enough, up on this hillside, literally crawling with Andean spectacled bear, which is in most areas of the Andes is super rare to find. And a lot of this comes down to, a lot of this land is owned by Zuleta, and it's basically just been, there's no agricultural activity up there. It's completely sealed off just for, just to protect it. So it really protects these species. Last project, also on Hacienda Zuleta, is the Zuleta Library. This was started a few decades ago, and essentially, again, to tie in with Galo Plaza's mission to help his community with education and to achieve an economic stability, knowing that it starts at childhood. So a lot of the women, what was happening was women going to work and doing the embroidery stuff. They needed a place for their children, so it started off as a daycare. So a lot of the local people would bring their children to the Zuleta Library during the day as a daycare. So it's gone on to do day projects for the kids in the local community to take them out. And then in the evening when the kids are done with local school, they'll come back in here to do reading and writing workshops and arts and crafts. And particularly what this helps to do is also expose the children to touristic activities. Like this is a girl, they were taking them out on a horse riding, learning equestrian skills. So some of these kids are going to be the ones that grow up to be the guides and the managers and the host at the Hacienda Zuleta itself, or they're going to take these skills they've learned through Zuleta Library and use them elsewhere in their life. But the library is open for visitors, so as guests that are interested can go stop by the library during the day to see the children, participate with them, help them out some arts and crafts, and read them a book. We enjoy it when people come and bring pictures of where they're visiting from to do kind of a show and tell with the kids. We're also open. We have a lot of young interns or volunteers that come and work with the Zuleta Library. So just a beautiful project, and to me this is the one that really ties it all together, of getting the community involved in the agricultural aspect of Hacienda Zuleta and with the tourism, and so they have pride in themselves and where they live and what they're doing, just to make sure that this tradition carries on for many years. So that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank everybody for attending, and again, as I said, if you have